I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to the town of Manlius planning board meeting being conducted on July the 24th. First item on the agenda is approval of our minutes from the meeting on June 26th, unless there are corrections. And
I made a correction to the secretary.
can you tell us what it is? So
Yes.
we know what it is.
The last page says, that there being no further business, member Rossetti made a motion. It wasn't here.
It wasn't here.
Sorry.
I suppose it's-
It'd be part of it, so that's right. I made a motion to, I need one too, do I need to? say that?
Yes.
Okay,
you-
I did, I made
Shane,
I
yes.
made a correction to the word, palette, and it's right near the very end. It's just a different spelling for different meaning of the word.
Okay. And did you give that to,
I did, yep.
okay, other than those two changes? And again, who actually made that motion to adjourn?
I don't know. It wasn't Arnie.
It was not.
Yep.
Thank you, Ryan. Motion to approve subject to those two changes, Aaron?
Second.
Second by Valerie, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. Yes, thank you, Richard. Being that you weren't here.
Because I wasn't gonna leave, so I wasn't
First item on our agenda is an application by CNY Land Trust. This is on tonight for a further discussion relative to site plan amendment on property located at 7213 Woodchuck Hill Road. Tax map number 101-1-1. And we have received from you some updated drawings.
Yes.
I did want to emphasize one thing, on the site plan, it almost appears like it's a two-lot subdivision. I wanted to emphasize that it is not a two-lot subdivision. There is no subdivision incorporated here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you want to discuss this further?
Sure. Andrew Ramsgard, Vice Chair of the Simpson Yard Land Trust. Just to give you a little bit of information from the last time. We do have included in your package, a stamp survey. We've also added the topography immediately adjacent around the proposed, parking area. By the town of Manlius code, we are required to provide the 7 spaces based on the square footage of the structure that is there, which we've shown, including a handicap accessible spot. We've included a silt fence detail around the area that would be the excavation, so the driveway and the parking area. Our plan is to box cut the area for the driveway and the parking area. What that means is the excavator comes in, makes a very shallow, very clean cut. They put down geotextile fabric, put in run a crushed stone, and then top that with compacted cinder. That allows us to have no over excavation around the site at all. It makes for a very clean detail. But we have provided for silt fence downhill just in case. And we've included that in detail. We've also included a construction sequence that would follow the order of what we have planned for the site, which is to immediately stake out the work area, to install the silt fencing downhill of the construction and work area, to box out the parking area of the drive, remove the topsoil, install the geotextile fabric, and install the mobility ramp directly to the house, which we're proposing to put into our offices, and then make the interior modifications. Then once everything is complete, we would remove the silt fence from the site.
I did want to ask you, am I incorrect? Or I am thinking that you have one building on the survey that is not there anymore. And that is a garage, and
Yes, just
southeastern corner.
recently, as we, had before we submitted this, they were still there, we just demoed those two buildings. Huber Brewer, demoed those for us. That's the garage, and the dwelling to the east, but previous to our application, they were still on site.
So the two buildings at the southeast corner are no longer there.
They're gone. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we got a very generous grant from, Huber Brewer for $50,000 to take those buildings down for us.
I got a question. On the walkway, it says compacted cinder walk. Since it leads to a wood ramp, I'm assuming wheelchairs and everything will go down that sidewalk.
Yeah.
I can tell you, it's not real easy to push a wheelchair on cinders.
It's an accessible areaway for any natural environment. We do it all the time for our properties. It's not, there are other materials that can be used. We're trying to keep this as natural as possible.
I guess it's just my opinion, I'm just one person.
Sure.
But I think I'd rather see that in asphalt. I don't know what the rest of the board is thinking, those are just my thoughts.
It complies with what the code says, so for accessible parking. And it complies with the town of Manlius code. For the area, we'd be happy to receive a donation and put in asphalt. I'd be happy to do that, but we don't have the money for that.
just for the board's knowledge, at our planning meeting, we determined to notify the fire chief and ask the fire chief of his thoughts, whether this plan will work relative to ingress and egress, and Lisa made that contact. The fire chief did write back and said that it's a long stretch of lane, but he can handle it. And so he did not see any concern that would draw concern to us for ingress, egress, or emergency vehicle response.
Just from an operational standpoint, how many people would be there at any given time?
So our office staff is 3 people.
Okay,
Our director, our secretarial, and our land steward. Our land steward is most of the time crossing and crisscrossing the 50 preserves we have across Onondaga, Oswego, and Fort County. So usually it's 2 people that are there.
what about visitors?
We don't really have any visitors. You know, if somebody comes for something that needs to see us, but we really don't have any visitors.
Is this going to be an office for all of your projects?
All of it's the area where we would manage all of our preserves. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
50 of them are.
We have 3,000 acres, a little over 3,000 acres across the counties. We have we have 3 or 4 major preserves where we have the public could visit us on a regular basis. But most of our preserves are areas that are either landlocked or around neighborhoods that were given to us over the 50 years that we've been a 501(c)(3).
Is it all usable land? Is it all usable land?
All our preserves across the county. In most cases, we try to restore the preserves to the natural environment. So we're given farmlands a lot of times. Those fields go fallow, unless there is a donor that is a farmer and they want in continuum until they move on. We allow that to happen, but our goal is to keep the land as natural as possible and do nothing, tread lightly on it, and provide areas for people to re-engage with the environment in a completely natural way. We don't have any meeting rooms. We're not a Beaver Lake. We're not a Baltimore Woods. That's not what we are and what we do. We associate with those, and when we have events and that sort of thing, will constantly, partner with Baltimore to be related. Or one of the other areas.
This is unrelated to the project. Got me thinking. Did you take possession of the land that's off of Brickyard Falls Road?
Yes,
Yeah,
That's one of the, okay,
yeah, that's one of our pieces, yes.
okay.
Yeah, we have some scattered, a few pieces scattered around in Manlius.
That's a nice piece of land.
Yeah, we, I don't remember who the donor was for that piece. But it's a nice piece.
except the parking lot's too small.
Well, we try not to make the parking lots too big, because that invites, sometimes, an element that we really don't want to have. We close our preserves at night. We like to have a gate as close as possible to whatever the street is, so that we don't allow any activity overnight. There are no fireworks, fires, no camping, where it's a carry out, and there's no food, no animals that are unleashed, or we had somebody try to do dog sleds in one of our preserves. You know, we now have a no dog sled.
My thought on this, after listening to your initial presentation and reviewing your petition itself. I would actually have a recommendation that if in fact this project is approved, the site plan is approved, that it has two restrictions on it. And so I might as well just tell you what I think in terms of, based on what I'm hearing on actual usage, I would be looking, number one, to have that there will be no tents or temporary structures or special events without having obtained a special use permit for that nature.
Absolutely.
That would be one. And the second one is based upon the site plan and how many vehicle parking you have set forth there. I would have that second one would be parking, so as not to block the ingress or egress of the vehicle of traffic along the roadway. And more particularly that the car automobile limit would be 20 vehicles.
That's fine. That's that would be more than we need. See any reason not to.
Okay.
Those are good. It's good.
Yeah, was there also some discussion about, that there would not be parking along the access roadway?
Yeah, not to block ingress. or-
Oh, that's the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's-
And there is no plan to build further on this.
No.
Okay.
No.
Questions, board?
Yeah.
Aaron?
So some of these are just piddly things about site plan stuff, and some of them are actually a little bit bigger. So I noticed on the T 1.1 sheet, there's actually a lot of spelling errors. And that just kind of is something I think should be cleaned up for your next submission. Several up in the top part, and then there's a silt fence that's not pointing to anything. Cinder, undisturbed, remain, mounted, those are just some of the words. And then as far as the driveway section goes, I don't really feel that 4 inches is enough on a crush. That barely gives you two stacks of the largest size stone in that mix. And you know, I assume you're gonna be just having regular vehicles in and out of there, but I think that something closer to 10 inches would be more appropriate for a vehicle.
It's
Drive.
standard driveway for residential use is less than a 4 and 2. This is a 4 and 2, so it's 6.
That's just my comment for the board to consider. You know, you're probably gonna be having a lot more people in and out and a lot more use, and this is something that kind of works more towards like a business than a residence.
We don't expect any big trucks. We don't have any large equipment.
But the public is coming here.
Well, sure. If we get visitors, there's plenty of places up in the park. It's
Yeah.
way more than is necessary.
I mean, that's my opinion. Do you wanna chime in at all? 4 just seems like way too little.
It's 4 and 2. so
I understand.
it's 6.
And I see that there's the fabric there, which I'm assuming is a woven fabric. So while he's coming up with a opinion, I guess I assume it's appropriate to ask our engineer.
Yeah.
First opinion, okay.
It's always perfect.
What do you think your schedule of construction would be?
Our grant runs out, at the end of December. So we need to do the work as soon as possible.
So this year,
Yeah, it has to be done. It has to be completed before December, before January 1st.
on the parking stuff. I don't think, so I see you've got a 20-foot, two 20-foot stalls and then an 18-foot or 28-foot aisle. And I feel like you could get away with a lot less than that if you wanted to narrow that down. I'm guessing you made it 18 because of the drive coming into it, but
Right.
that would save you significant disturbance and cost if you wanted to.
Sure, that wouldn't, we don't need a lot of space there. We only need 4 spaces in reality.
It's just a thought to consider. I think you could.
Yeah, we'd be happy to make it smaller.
I mean, you don't have to, but you're looking to tighten things up. 28 feet is far more than
Right, 26 is usually what is comfortable.
60 to 66 feet in there. So, just an option. On your previous drawing and something we had talked about, there were some breaks in the stone walls lining the entrance.
Yes,
And those were shown as opportunities for vehicles to access the fields next to the entrance drive in order to park for your events. And I see that those aren't on the plan anymore. And I was curious if you had, if there was a reason for that or just got
no reason for it. We didn't draw it, didn't think it was relative. Where this driveway is planned is through one of the natural existing breaks in the wall.
oh, okay,
We have a lot of volunteers who spend a lot of time on our walls, and that they are very precious to us. So we don't like to disturb them. We do have a couple of breaks on the other sides for mowers, but they were always there.
Sure.
So.
well, I was just, if you were gonna show them again, then that would demonstrate, show them on the drawing. Then that would demonstrate where maybe you wanted to locate your overflow parking for where you have events. It would just get it on file, basically.
So we did submit that with the town board because we have our evergreen fundraiser coming up in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
Because we had to show a plan of how cars are gonna access egress, where they're gonna get parked, and that sort of thing. I don't have that with me.
that's okay. It's
So we do
maybe,
have that, and it is on file with the town.
okay,
I didn't think those openings were that big. Can you get a card through those openings?
Yeah, there's a lower opening below the house where it goes into the old garage. And then there's an upper opening on the side where the farm tractors that service all the fields.
When I drove by it, I thought they were pretty narrow. Whatever.
Doug, do you have a comment on this?
We don't really have any standards for gravel driveways or gravel parking areas, but in general, the industry standard is something similar to what Aaron's saying. So we're between 12 and 18 inches for a parking area.
Yeah, I would do 12, but I think 10 would work here. But that's my suggestion. Because I think that it's important for the integrity and the long-term durability of
If you want 10, we'll do 10.
the material. I think that it would go a long way. And I don't actually have a problem with the stone dust as far as the ADA access route. I think that properly installed and maintained stone dust is a great service. As long as it's graded properly to shed the water and all that kind of stuff, it requires a little bit of maintenance of like raking and periodic, re-leveling and grading and stuff. But if it's maintained properly, I have the experience that you might have had, but if there were to be a material change, I would prefer to see it concrete over asphalt. Just because it's a little bit, better looking and maybe a little bit more appropriate and not as intrusive
Right.
as asphalt can look. But it's obviously even more expensive, than asphalt is, but that's just my, my 2 cents on that. And the bigger, do I have wood handicap ramps, abutting a, stone dust ADA access way is where the, the stone dust meets the ramp. There can be sometimes a bigger lip there that you would want to see for tripping hazard and for moving a wheel, vehicle. And so that requires a little bit of maintenance, but, I mean, it sounds like you guys will probably be on top of that, and then,
We can stop right there.
yeah,
I think we need to get a consensus among the members of the board as to the depth of the gravel coming on in. We've heard from our engineer, we've heard from Aaron on this. We all in consensus that that would be sufficient 10 inches.
Instead of 6 that they're proposing.
And to make it smaller, so you could say there.
Right, sure.
Yeah, I think if you're making it smaller. They would tell us the money there, then I think that would
I
make
think
sense,
that's
maybe
great.
for,
It's a great comment.
yeah.
Okay, anybody opposed to that? Okay, all right.
and then. You know, I've been trying to pay more attention to what is listed in our code as far as site plan review requirements, and I'm sure you've looked at this. And I remember, from our previous, presentation that, you know, you were waiting in order to kind of get the money to be able to get the survey and show all the things that should be shown, you needed an approval in order to probably with grants and stuff like that, I'm guessing. And so I just wanted to ask how it would be handled so that we do end up seeing a full site plan and survey.
You have a survey.
Right, but it's not showing all the things that are required. Trees, tree line, I mean, utilities, all those kinds of things, even if they're existing. Those are the kinds of things that we want to have on file as site plan, so that should somebody come back for a site plan amendment and things like that. You know, there's a list of stuff that we want to see, and I'm curious if we make exceptions for some projects, then other people come in and you know, this is a question as well for the board. I don't wanna, you know, be out of line with this, but I understand the difficulty as well in needing to get an approval in some fundraising things to get a certain way into the process in order for money to be able to be available to do some of this stuff. So I don't know if there's a mechanism that we can employ with that, but
I'll give you my 2 cents worth on some of those things. This is, in my mind, this is a very unique project. And I would think that with some of those things, you have to be more specific, but some of those things could be waived. And a perfect example is the survey. We'll never get a survey of the entire property. That won't happen. Are we concerned with what takes place on this property other than what's in this box here? Personally, I'm not. You know, as far as what's there is there. I know there's some overhead power lines that are on the property that are shown on this. I don't have a major problem with that, but again, that's me.
I think we're in a position where we wanted to look at the totality of what is in front of us. And you know, this is like a nature preserve. This is it is in fact a unique property that has been there. And then we have the capability of waiving some of these requirements. And I'm leaning that way.
so it can be a case by case basis.
It can indeed, and it depends on, I always use the word the totality of the circumstances, and this here has additional circumstances that I believe warrant waiver.
Yeah, you may, you know, but
I have a suggestion.
oh, no, I agree, but may perhaps on the actual plan, we could state something to the effect of that this property is intended to remain in its natural state, and that no changes are to be made to the property. And, you know, anything else that would happen on this property would have to come to the planning board. Something to that
Makes
effect,
sense.
an actual note on the plan, and then we can put that as a condition in approval. And
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Are you okay with that? Sure.
And maybe we'll note that there were some details waived because of the use of the property.
I like that.
Further questions?
Oh, it sounds good.
No,
No, I agree.
Then I think the next thing is for us to put this on our calendar for, site plan approval, public hearing.
Great.
Public
Thank you very
hearing.
much.
site plan.
You make the motion to set it for the public hearing, and we do it for the next meeting. Lisa,
Like we go 2 hours, so the different.
okay, that's fine, so I'll make it for the August 20th.
We are notifying comments to do it any differently than. Because it's a site plan. Right, we don't have to,
So it's a conduit road, but
and then, I mean, and then they're the adjacent property.
I believe the town of DeWitt has been.
I noticed, yes.
I will send them yeah, okay.
Okay. If you're okay with, August 28th,
That'd be great.
and, that'll be for, public hearing. And, we may even be able to resolve this at that time, no promises, but possibility.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So I made the motion.
Oh, we got a motion, and the motion second by Valerie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, August 28th. Thank you, sir. We get one other matter on our agenda, and this is, for bookkeeping purposes.
Procedure was.
Is that 8:30? No, it's not. It's so good, I can't find it. This is Woodland Hills, and we need to classify what type of action this is. Just to keep the clock running, that we are moving it forward. So I would entertain a motion.
So this is
Unlisted.
This is an unlisted action. We can, I think that we should put it out for authoritative review. I would send notices out to any interested or involved businesses.
Then I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Make a motion.
Valerie, second by Irene, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Which agencies would be?
TDC, for, all the usual suspects.
Richard?
That's it?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Did you want to discuss something else? Ian?
No, I just, they didn't know if you needed a motion on the other.
There wasn't,
You already did.
and I already seconded.
Or anything, yeah.
Yeah,
I also missed that.
we voted.
Back.
So I have a motion to adjourn.